Okay, so starting up the car, it's roughly like a 6-second timer until the car turns on. Alrighty, so looking at the screen, you still maintain your basic climate control functions, such as the dual zone air temperature with the ability to sync. And if you want to view your climate control options, you have the ability to look at the screen. So you still have your fan up, fan down, your circulation modes. You also have your auto feature, which is still maintained with the on and off for your AC. Plus you have the ability to control the rear AC control, which I found on my previous head unit was working sometimes, not really all the time. And then if we go back, let's see, because it's a little hot. So then you have your camera button. So I'm currently missing a cable that would work with the 360 camera, so I'm waiting for that to come in. Looking at this side of the screen, your top button is going to be your dim button, which changes the brightness of the screen. Your bottom button is your nav button, which will take you to whatever app you choose to pair to that. On this side, you're looking at your home button, which will return you back to your home screen. And then right below that, you have your radio button, which will take you to any radio station that you have choose. And here you can change your presets. And then right here gives you the option to look at your equalizer. And I saw a comment mentioning if it changes the sound quality. And here you can actually have more options for your bass so that your sound system sounds stronger. So here I've adjusted it with the surround sound, the bass boosted, and the bass filter. So let's say we go to our CarPlay, which for CarPlay, it's going to be your T-Link 5. So go into CarPlay and then go into Spotify. Here we can turn up the volume, and let's say we play this.
I ain't tryna let that pass me tonight. I'ma put my being in and tell you something slick. Whisper in your ear while I'm holding.
So there kind of gives you a view of your sound quality. Looking at the lagginess, the screen is fairly responsive, especially with the plastic screen protector still being on there. Here you can have this option to show your side button. So this will show you your previously used apps that you can quickly go through. Here's your back button, your home button, and then quick adjustments for the volume. Since it removes the volume knob, if you choose the smaller 12-inch screen, you still retain your volume and tune knob. However, I wanted the bigger screen at the end. On your home screen, you have these default apps. If you hold down, you can change what you want them to turn to. So like radio, you can choose your other apps along with that. And if we look at settings, this will take you to the system settings. So this has the ability to connect to Wi-Fi, hotspot, or you have a built-in SIM card you can enter in. So working like a regular Android device, you have your mobile data, your flight modes and stuff, which you probably won't need. Looking at your display, you can easily change the brightness and such things as font, which is really important because for some people the screen may be too far away, so it may be helpful to have a bigger font. You can change that depending on your needs. And then looking down at sounds, this is a good way to kind of change your sound system. That way, if you have navigation, you can choose how loud you want your background music, whether you want it to turn off when it's giving directions or maintain at its normal volume. Looking at general, so this is for the navigation bar on this side, which is your default. You can turn that off, add it to the left side or to the right side of the display, whichever you choose, because let's say you have your steering wheel controls on your steering wheel and you want your passenger to have the ability to turn up and down the volume, you can give them that. And then looking down, you have your video outputs, your car battery, your phone battery. And then one thing that I will say is important to note, so you have your sleep time. Your sleep time will say, let's say if I don't use my car for a day, the system will actually power down to conserve itself. And then the only thing that means is a longer start time next time you turn on the car after it's gone into sleep mode. So you can change that from 2 hours, 1 day, 3 days, or keep it on 24/7, like in the background. So looking at your original settings, you have the ability to look at your steering wheel controls, which out of the factory system are pretty good. I haven't messed with them because I found everything works perfectly the way it's set up. And then you also have your front door displays. So that way if you open the door, it pops up on the screen, but it already does that in the gauge cluster. So I turn that off, and then you have your temperature control. So let's say if I adjust it here, you can see nothing pops up. But if I want to show air conditioning display, you can do that. So that way if I change it, it appears on the screen. But I found it really distracting if I'm trying to look at my maps and then this pops up while I'm changing the air temperature. So reverse, like I said, I'm missing that cable that will connect it to the camera, but once I get that in, I'll do an update video kind of showing what the cameras look like with that. What's really cool is here it gives you the mode selection. For a short press on the steering wheel can either activate your phone or car voice, and then the long press will activate the other, and then it gives you the option to choose between the both. Then you have your personal settings, system settings. Here is where you can look for updates that come out, and once your device is connected to an online network, you'll be able to see upgrades come through there. Here are your factory settings. You'll need a PIN code, and I'm working with the supplier to get the PIN code. That way I can do the proper configurations for the car that are hidden behind the menus a little bit more. Going back to our home page. Okay, so looking at our apps, one thing that I think is really interesting is this homepage menu. To me personally looks a little cheap and a little bit outdated, but what's really cool about it is they give you the option to kind of change your display. So let's see if we open network and connect it to my hotspot. Okay, so connecting it to my phone's hotspot. Let's see, we can go back to apps, and then using themes, you can change how your screen will look and the kind of function it displays. So for example, if you wanted a more clean look, let's see, you can download this kind of software skin that will update it and kind of give it a fresher appearance, versus if you wanted a more off-road oriented page, you can also do that as well. So kind of going back to the apps, they give you a ton of apps, but you'll only really need a few. There's the vehicle settings that we offered, and then here are the car settings that come with the car. So here you have your parking sensor, your comfort information, which you can look at here. You will notice how some things are slightly misspelled, but the functionality still works. Here you can access your vehicle safety system information, as well as the sonar information. And some of these things you can't change because you couldn't change them on the previous head unit. And then with this is where you'll access to turn on the rear displays. And then as well as the backup camera, I am also missing a little adapter piece that will connect to the rear headrest. So again, once I get that in, I'll update to kind of showcase what that will look like with the front display projecting on the rear screens. And the good thing about this is it'll allow you to project this screen along with the rear screens while the vehicle doesn't have its parking brake engaged, and you do have the option to have it still display while the vehicle is in drive. So it comes with a factory weather app, just like the previous screen where you can look at the information. This will show you the forecast of your area. You have your air conditioning, you have your aux, your Bluetooth, which is where you'll go to pair your device. You have your car settings, and then car apps is kind of where you can look at your mileage, fuel economy, tire pressures, and more information for your vehicle. One thing I will note is this is currently displaying in miles. It's just always going to say KM at the end of it, except for fuel. Fuel is the only thing that's proper in liters, but total mileage, that's what it is in miles, but it'll show it's still in kilometers. So then you get apps like Chrome, where you can sign in, use the internet. What's really cool about it is the keyboard on this unit is super responsive, super easy to use. Looking at this, we have more sound adjustments, which is where it'll take you to the equalizer. You have apps that come on it normally. You have Google. Here for off-roaders, you have your gyroscope information that will tell you your compass and the level of rotation inside of the vehicle. And then you have Google Maps, your Google Play Store, which is where you can access to download more apps such as Netflix, Hulu, and things like that, so that way you can have streaming on the go. And what's really cool about it is, since it's an Android-based system, it'll be like you're downloading devices on your phone, so you can download those movies onto this device to play without cellular connections. And then here you have your radio, which is where you...
For a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's...
access for that. This top button is going to be your mute button. And then you have your T5 link, which is where you're going to access your Apple CarPlay, and that works through connecting your phone and car through Bluetooth. And then there's where you can access your steering wheel controls that I showed previously. Let's see, and then video, and then YouTube is, again, just like any other app, you can work it like normal and scroll and play it through the vehicle. So that's a quick overview of this thing. I do want to note this, it does, where the previous DVD disc went, this is where you now have an access trace. The plastic is a little hollow, so it just doesn't feel the highest quality, but most of the time you're either going to leave it open or closed, and with that, it works perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm going to hold up the little microphone up to the thing so you guys can hear how they sound. Alrighty guys, that's a somewhat quick video going over this head unit. I know it's not the best video, but hopefully it answered all your questions and you're kind of able to get a good takeaway of how this unit works, looks, and feels.